Welcome to the third episode of Accessibility Now, stories about accessibility in Georgia. Accessibility Now is a podcast produced by the statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. I'm your host, Matt Shedd, and we'll be discussing the real, tangible resources that are available for those living with disabilities. Today, we're discussing the Northwest Georgia Center for Independent Living. This Center for Independent Living, or CIL, serves over 15 counties out of its location in Rome, Georgia. As is the case with many CILs, multiple staff members at the Northwest Georgia office are people who also have disabilities themselves. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on how this experience of living with a disability gives these staff members the resources to teach people in the community who also have disabilities how to advocate for themselves. I started off speaking with Northwest Georgia CIL Director Christina Holtzclaw about her time as a staff member at the location before taking on the position of director.
I have been here for coming up on 19 years. I was here when we first opened. We were a satellite of the Disability Link out of Atlanta. Our first name was Disability Link Northwest. And so I started out as an independent living coordinator then. And so I've been here for the whole thing when we changed to the new name and all those good things. I'd kind of gotten out of college and like a lot of people with disabilities, I was having a hard time finding a job. So I was kind of just taking positions, representative for credit cards and, just a lot of different things, trying to just kind of get my foot into the door somewhere. And so this was something different from anything I'd ever done because I could actually come in here and teach Braille. I've known Braille from, I've pretty much read Braille my whole life. It was something where I could come in and teach Braille and all these skills that I had that, when I was going to other interviews, I wasn't sure how to kind of market myself with that, it was kind of advertised. I didn't know anything about Centers for Independent Living at that time. So when I went for the interview, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to be doing. I wanted to come and kind of feel it out and do the interview and just see if it was something I could do. And I remember one of the first things, we serve 15 counties and, being blind, I wanted to put it out there. I'm like, we're in a rural area. I can't drive, So if it was going to not work out, I wanted it to, right then and there, they were going to say it wasn't going to work. So I didn't want to, any surprises. So I just kind of go ahead and put that out there to begin with. And I remember, during the interview, they were like, well, the person who was interviewing me, she's like, well, I can't drive either. So actually we're fine. So, and then they explained more about it. And one of the first things they did was have me, I went to NWGACIL, the National Council on Independent Living in Washington, D.C. It was one of the first things we did. And I think that's the first time I got a real view of like just how big what I was involved in really is. So, we met people all over the country from there. So, we went to Disability Day. I think my first few months, working here it was kind of a blur because they had us, they just really wanted us to really get an idea of what all we were involved in as far as advocacy and all that good stuff.
One of the Northwest Georgia CIL's core services, self-advocacy training, is crucial for people with disabilities as they try to live independently in their communities. Though she started as the Northwest Georgia CIL as an employee and not a consumer, Christina had some experience in self-advocacy that she brought to the job.
I kind of was an advocate for myself before I even knew what the word was. I was in a public school, so I was the only blind, student there. So I really didn't have a lot of mentors or anything like that. So this was the first chance I'd had to meet other people with disabilities and just learn that we had things to offer to other people as far as, peer mentoring and all those things. So I took the Georgia Voices That Count that, we had, Disability Link had actually connected us with that and the peer mentor training, which, we had some great training with them. And they taught us, all how to mentor other people with disabilities. So I think that's the first time I realized, we had valuable things to offer that had not come across in my other positions. Because I felt like I was always trying to make myself fit into like a sided position, like a round peg in a square hole that wasn't fitting. It's the first time I'm like, gosh, I actually fit somewhere.
The next employee I spoke with from the Northwest Georgia CIL was Quinn Durant. Quinn first came into contact with the Northwest Georgia CIL through an employability class that they offered. The self-advocacy that they taught him there as a consumer stuck with him.
One of the things that I found both memorable and helpful is the way to approach potential employers and advocate for your possible needs. And I thought that was extremely important, to be able to approach them in a way that is acceptable, knowing what my rights are, which was hard. It's hard to know that unless you've really studied it out, and being able to move forward on that. See, I wasn't always able to advocate for myself. My parents, which I attribute a lot of my wonderful upbringing to, they advocated a lot for me when I was younger. And until I became an adult more on my own and having to advocate for myself at that point, it's one of those things that you have to learn. And the center helped a lot with that.
He started out as a consumer at those training courses, but now Quinn works as an independent living coordinator at the Northwest Georgia CIL, and it's changed his life for the better.
Well, before, I didn't have an apartment. I did not have paratransit here in town, and I didn't have a job. And you could say that all three of those have changed for a much more independent living situation. I have an apartment. I'm using paratransit every day that I work, which is fantastic. They're a great resource. And I have a job, a steady job. And that is something that I will always be appreciative of.
Similar to Quinn, Erna first encountered the Northwest Georgia CIL as a consumer. To better facilitate her independent living, they provided her with several assistive tools and devices, which Erna describes here.
In October 2016, I ended up in a nursing rehab center. I was 100% paralyzed from the neck down. When I went to the emergency room, I was fully alert, knew something was going on. By the next morning, I was in a coma and on life support, on dialysis. I woke up 11 days later with machines and everything all around me. They had already told my family, I wasn't going to come out of it. So I woke up from thinking I was going to have kidney stone surgery to waking up and couldn't lift a finger, couldn't lift a toe. I was there for 13 months, and a few months before I left there, someone from the center here visited me, and I went under the transition program that they have. And they were very helpful in getting me some equipment and all when I got into my apartment that I lived by myself in. There was a cart that I had to have a wheelchair, and at that time I only had a manual chair. Now I have a power chair because I still am paralyzed from the waist down. I've regained 60 to 70% use of my upper body. And so they got me like a cart that I could pull, to move stuff on. I do a lot of cooking. That was my profession, and I still love to do it. A cutting board that basically clips to the table so it doesn't move. Once my age put me to bed at night, or my kids with whoever's doing it, I can't get up and get to the door or anything else. So in order to be able to unlock and lock my door at night and in the morning to let whoever's coming in, they bought me a special lock. I can be in my bed and you can use it just like you would to unlock your car door or lock it.
After having been helped by the Northwest Georgia CIL, Erna wanted everyone to know just what kind of help there is for people with disabilities. The mission, the staff, all of it spoke to her. She encourages anyone in the service area to reach out and get the help that they need.
Every disability, like the center here, and I think all of them are the same, they service all ages, from 6, 7, 8 years old to 80, 90 years old. And it doesn't matter what kind of disability. Everyone that works at this center has a disability of some type. Our director is visually impaired. She has a guide dog. Assistant director is hearing impaired. She can't talk on the phone. She has to do it by email. So more than likely, anybody out there that's woke up out of a coma, had a stroke, whatever the case might be, or slowly went blind or deaf. More than likely, someone at the center has been through some of the things they're going through, as well as knows some of the resources to reach out to get equipment that they might need. Really, unless you know who to ask and know the questions to ask, it's a little bit more readily available now on the internet. But unless you know what to key in and look for, you're not going to know what those products are called or where to get them.
Since she felt so passionately about the work that the Northwest Georgia CIL was doing, it was not long before Erna wanted to be a part of it herself.
When I woke up out of the coma, I'm a religious person, Christian. The first thing when I woke up and seen I couldn't move, I said, okay, Lord, you woke me up. There's got to be something I can do. I work here now. I've always been one that liked education. So once I got my power chair, 6-8 months after I got my apartment, I began going to all kinds of seminars, and at that time we were in person, of course. And I went to different ones all over town that my wheelchair could get me to, as well as I came to all of them that they had here at the center, which is, I live in one end of the town of Broad Street, and the center's on the other end. A matter of, I don't know how many blocks, 6, something like that. They were having a get-together before they closed for the holidays, an open house, and so I had came with my resume in my hand to ask about volunteering when they came back into the office after the holidays. And it was really crowded, a lot of people coming in and out, and I thought, well, I'm not going to bother the director with this right now. I'll just come back after the first of the year. Well, I said my goodbyes and was about to leave, and the director asked me, could I come and see her in the office? And I thought, oh no, did I say something I shouldn't have or what? And she offered me a job when we went in there. And I didn't tell her till probably 6 months later that I actually had a resume with me to offer to volunteer. I love it because all my life pretty much I worked in a profession that I was helping patients, residents, different things of where I was working for like 30-something years. And so that was the one thing I missed once I became disabled. I thought, I've got to get out and do something. I've got to see people. I've got to tell them my story and see, if I can do anything to help them.
Like they did for Erna when she needed help, providing assistive technology to people with disabilities is a big part of what the Northwest Georgia CIL does. The Georgia School for the Deaf is in their service area, and they help the Northwest Georgia CIL provide training and demo services for people with disabilities to determine what assistive technology is right for them. Here's Christina again, the CIL director, with more on that.
Then we have our Tools for Life demonstration room where they can come in here and they can, I've never minded them, taking it home and using it, because there's nothing worse than getting a piece of equipment that you think is going to do something and it doesn't. So, we can demonstrate it, or if they want to, take the equipment home and use it for a little bit and see if it's even what they needed. A lot of people with disabilities has had that experience where they'll buy equipment and it can be expensive most of the time and get it home and it's not what you think it was. So, we do that, and that's why we do it, so they, do a demonstration and see how it's actually going to work for them. And, sometimes they'll come back and like, yes, this was exactly what I thought, or they'll come back and say, no, this didn't work at all. So, and that's before they buy it and try to put money into it. And, as our funding allows, we try to, we can buy people assistive technology, so they can empower themselves to get back into school or to work or whatever the case may be. We've helped people just, get a CCTV so they can read their mail. Those things, it's a big deal to be able to read your mail. So, that may be somebody just come in here and say, hey, I can't read my mail and I need some way to read it. So we've done that for a few people. We had a consumer who, she was fully, sighted person. She was hit by a car, and basically overnight she lost all of her vision. And she went from, she was going to college, working, and she was able to use a computer just like any other sighted person. So we had to, and it was me and one other staff member, we had to teach her JAWS. It's something that takes a little while because you have all these toggle keys and all these little things you have to do to operate it so you can navigate the screen. Otherwise, you're going to kind of be lost in the screen, not know where you're going. So it took her probably about 2 months to really have a really great handle on JAWS. But once she did, she was right back online. She was able to get back on social media, which was huge for her. She was a younger person who, loved social media, and she had lost all of that. And so that got her back on, some of her social media that had isolated her a lot from, some of the things she loved to do. So, that got her back into, being able to be social and to be able to operate a computer. So later on, when she wanted a job, she could, use it just like I do for my job.
If you or someone in your family has recently developed a disability, Christina recommends taking advantage of the services provided by CILs in your area. She emphasized the importance of the core services that the Northwest Georgia CIL provides.
I would say get connected with your Center for Independent Living wherever you are, and, go ahead and find out every resource that you can find out, and go ahead and get in those training classes. If you're just beginning to lose your vision, you can go ahead and start with, for instance, Zoom text, and maybe go ahead and get a heads up on JAWS. So, that I think getting connected with Centers for Independent Living, that will get them where they need to go. They're going to learn their resources, their options, and, see what direction they want to take.
We're going to wrap up today's episode there. You've just heard all about the employee stories and the core services provided by the Northwest Georgia Center for Independent Living. Again, if you're in their service area and you want to reach out about accessing their resources or volunteering, give them a call at 706-314-0008. And you can find out more on their website at NWGACIL.org. That's NWGACIL.org. The music for this podcast is provided by bensound.com. Thank you for listening to Accessibility Now, stories about accessibility in Georgia. Accessibility Now is a podcast produced by the statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. If you want to find out more about that organization, you can visit us at silcga.org. That's silcga.org. This episode was co-written and co-produced by Desi Gillespie. I'm your host, Matt Shedd, and I just want to close by reminding you that a Georgia that includes everyone is better for all of us. All right, we'll see you next time.